package was followed by a discussion on Ukraine's economy in the context of Russia's ongoing war of aggression. I'm heartened to report that the implementation of the Ukraine support loan is now proceeding at pace. It remains a top priority for the Irish Presidency to ensure that Ukraine continues to receive the support it needs in the face of Russia's brutal, illegal war. We then adopted a number of implementing decisions amending the recovery and resilience plans of a number of member states, the Netherlands, Latvia, Slovenia, Finland, Cyprus, Luxembourg, Germany and Lithuania, and importantly approving the new plan for Hungary. We've also approved the country-specific recommendations under the European semester. As you know, these recommendations provide member states with guidance on how to coordinate their economic, social and structural policies in their governments. On the fiscal side of the House, we took a decision to open an excessive deficit procedure for Bulgaria, and we endorsed the net expenditure path of the Netherlands' new medium-term fiscal structural plan. As usual in July, the ECB and the Commission presented the Euro convergence reports, which provided an update on those member states on a path to joining the euro area. And the Council approved the G20 terms of reference in participation for the G20 meeting, which will take place at the end of August. This sets out the shared view across member states for the meeting. Finally, we had the usual informal breakfast at which member states received a debrief on the Eurogroup meeting that took place yesterday and had an opportunity to discuss the economic situation in the EU. So overall, a productive day and one which marks the start of an ambitious programme under the Irish Presidency. I very much look forward to welcoming colleagues to Dublin in September for our informal meeting, where we will discuss how technological innovation is shaping Europe's future economy. With that, I will pass to Valdis.
Thank you, Simon. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by thanking Mr. Harris for presenting the Irish Presidency priorities at today's meeting. We welcome the important emphasis the work programme places on advancing key files, especially enhancing competitiveness, the digital euro and the savings and investment union. I look forward to working closely with you on these priorities and more in the months ahead. I provided today's meeting with an updated assessment on the economic outlook, taking into account latest indicators and global developments. Energy prices have fallen since the US-Iran peace agreement in mid-June, with oil prices reaching close to pre-conflict levels at the beginning of the month. Overall, inflation in the second quarter of this year turned out, on average, slightly below the projections contained in our spring forecast. However, renewed hostilities in recent days have again resulted in increases in oil and gas prices. The Commission will continue to monitor these developments and their impact on growth and inflation very closely. Moving to the Recovery and Resilience Facility. Since our last meeting, we have reached an important milestone. Denmark has become the first member state to complete 100% of the measures in their Recovery and Resilience Plan. As we are now approaching the finish line, we have just over 50 days left to implement all milestones and targets. I therefore welcome today's endorsement of targeted amendments that will also help prepare the final payment request for 8 member states. So Latvia, the Netherlands, Lithuania, Cyprus, Germany, Slovenia, Finland and Luxembourg. And I also welcome the Council's endorsement of Hungary's ambitious new €10 billion Recovery and Resilience Plan with strong deliverables, including on rule of law matters. Next to Ukraine, we have already made payments under Ukraine support loan worth more than €7 billion in total. This includes the first €3.2 billion disbursement under macro-financial assistance announced during the recent Ukraine Recovery Conference in Gdańsk. The disbursement followed Ukraine's implementation of important and wide-ranging policy reforms aimed at improving its economic resilience. At the same time as supporting Ukraine, we also must keep exerting maximum pressure on Russia's war economy by swiftly adopting the 21st sanctions package. Today's meeting took some important steps on implementation of our economic governance framework. The Council decided on the existence of excessive deficit in Bulgaria and made the recommendation for a corrective path to bring the deficit below 3% of GDP by 2029. The Commission will support Bulgaria's efforts to follow this path and reach our shared goal of ending its excessive deficit. The Council also endorsed the Netherlands' revised medium-term plan following the Commission's positive assessment. The Commission also welcomes today's adoption of the country-specific recommendations addressed to Member States in the context of the European semester. These recommendations are targeted at strengthening Europe's overall competitiveness. And finally, we also held a constructive policy debate on the market integration and supervision package. This is a key component of the Savings and Investment Union, our strategy to remove barriers and unlock the full potential of the EU's single market for financial services. And we welcome the Irish Presidency's ambition to reach a general approach this autumn. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll now open the floor for questions, and I see a hand up from Vitali first, please.
Thank you. I have one question. It was a summit of NATO with declaration to provide funding for Ukraine in the amount of 70 billion in this year and the equivalent for the next year. The member of NATO and member of EU, it's almost the same country, and we have this loan which guarantee about 30 billion on defense per year. Have you started discussion how it's possible to cover this gap? It's about 40 billion to cover defense needs of Ukraine. Thank you.
Yes, on this, since the very beginning we were emphasizing that with Ukraine support loan, we aim to cover some 2/3 of Ukraine funding needs for 2026 and 2027, and we expect other international partners to cover the remaining part. Having had also the discussions with Finance Minister Marchenko, I can say that the Ukraine's funding need for this year is broadly covered. So the focus is now on ensuring covering the funding need for the next year, and there we are reaching out to our international partners to make sure that this funding is available. And of course, there is a broad range of sources of funding which are available from international financial institutions, including IMF is moving forward with its program, bilateral support from G7 countries and also other countries. There is also important, if we discuss specifically military support, also important like bilateral military support programs coming from different countries. So obviously from the EU side we are committed to continue to provide Ukraine with all necessary support and also engage with international community to ensure it.
Okay, and next to Jack, please.
Thanks, Jack Parr from the Irish Times. A question, Taoiseach. You previously said that you wouldn't be opposed to using QMV to get the MIS package over the line. You know, we heard Luxembourg's position in the room as well. It seems that they still have a lot of concerns that would have been shared by the Irish government as well not too long ago. Do you think it's politically possible to decide this one on QMV over the opposition of Luxembourg, who has a particular sensitivity? And maybe a question to the Commissioner as well. Do you think the timeline of October to get an agreement in Council on this is realistic? Thank you.
So firstly, just to say the timeline on getting an agreement by October has been unanimously agreed by all 27 member states present at the Ecofin today, which is a significant milestone in and of itself. Not only has that been agreed, a very clear instruction has been given to the technical teams from each member state to now engage on trying to find landing zones and compromises. I think there's a couple of points here. Firstly, I think the first point in respect of every member state is every member state has signed up to the One Europe, One Market roadmap. So this mandate didn't fall from the sky. It fell from an agreement at the European Council, which has now also been endorsed by the European Parliament and the European Commission in terms of a timeline to get, for once and for all, an agreement on MISP and a deepening of our savings and investment union. And it's our job as presidency, and it's the job of every member state who signed up to that plan, to play a constructive role in making sure we fulfil that mandate. So the Prime Minister and or President of each country, the head of government or head of state, has agreed to this timeline as well. I think we have to be brave here, and we have to be courageous, and we have to realise that the discussion in Europe shouldn't always just be about how one divides up the pie. It should be about how we actually grow the pie. Because at the moment, it is a statement of fact to say that so much investment is flowing out of the European Union that we desperately need within the European Union. And I firmly believe that if we can get this right, and we will have a situation where all member states and the overall European Union will benefit from a larger scale of investment across our union. I don't intend to comment on the position of any member state other than to say that every member state is engaging sincerely and in good faith, including Luxembourg. And I think what you heard today was colleagues very honestly putting out their perspectives, as you'd expect them to do. But pretty much everybody saying that the paper we produced as a presidency captured the main issues, and nothing surprising emerged at the discussion today. But the question now is for everybody not to just repeat their position, but to actually try to see how they get the landing zone. And I really accept the bona fides of people in relation to that. What I said in my remarks that were on camera earlier at the meeting was that the EU is always at its best when it moves as an EU 27, always. But I'm also aware of other mechanisms that are available that don't require unanimity. But that's not the approach we're taking to this. The approach we're taking to this is try to get as large a consensus as possible, and it's in good faith that we're engaging on that basis.
From European Commission's side, we support this ambition of Irish presidency and are ready to work very closely towards achieving the agreement within the timeline set by the Irish presidency. And as Minister just outlined, I would say all the issues are well mapped. There has been lots of technical work done already, so the focus should now be really on stronger political engagement and reaching those political compromises which needs to be reached.
Okay, next to Fanny, please.
Good afternoon. Another question on Fanny Roux, MX. Another question on the market integration package. In order to reach a deal by October, I understand you refocused the debate on the very key issues in the proposals, in the Commission's proposals. Does it mean that you ruled out working on additional issues that were mentioned in the past months, such as, for instance, a framework for multi-issued stablecoins or a competitiveness mandate for ESMA? Thank you.
I know it's a fair question. I suppose we haven't ruled anything out of them. What we tried to do today was, I suppose, shift the dynamic around the conversation, and we produced a steering note for the meeting today, and that steering note endeavoured to capture what we believe to be the open issues, the key open issues on the file. And we asked colleagues today, were there any further issues not captured in that paper? We'll reflect on all of the comments made today and make sure that all of the conversation today is captured in that kind of final version of that steering note, or the engagement that we'll have at technical level. But I wanted to go in with, instead of going in with 8 questions or 10 questions, as is often the case at these meetings, I wanted to go in with two very clear questions. One, are these the issues you, the member states, want to discuss in relation to the next steps? Are these the open issues? And if so, will you mandate your teams not to just repeat what those issues are, but to try and work through them and find those landing zones? And we've scheduled, I think, around 16 working group meetings at technical level between now and October to try and facilitate that. And then secondly, to ask people, would they agree to trying to reach political agreement at the Council in October? And that was the agreement. So it's not a question of kind of ruling in or out, but I genuinely believe in politics we utilise whatever amount of space is available to us. And I think at some point you have to try and bring about a decision point. So we'll obviously have all of the technical engagement, at least 16 meetings between now and October at technical level being scheduled. But I didn't hear any new issues today kind of above and beyond what I think we expected to hear in the room.
Okay, and a question from Gianluca, please.
Can you hear me? Yes. Gianluca Martucci, Public Policy, Italian News Agency. Thank you for the floor. It's a follow-up on the MISP package, because you're putting so much ambition to reach an agreement in October, but on the other side, the European Parliament is aiming to find its agreement just in December. So basically, with this timeline, there won't be the time to close the deal as the roadmap is scheduling. So my question is to both of you, if you feel kind of disappointed by this behavior by the European Parliament, what's your message to President Metsola? Thank you so much.
So firstly, President Metsola is a colleague and friend of mine who does a very good job. All institutions have signed up to this roadmap. So the Parliament signed up, the Commission signed up, the Council signed up. So they're not timelines owned by the Commission or the Council or the Parliament. They're shared timelines endorsed. And how each institution wishes to do its business and its scheduling is a matter for them. My job as the President of Ecofin is to do our piece. And in fairness to the Parliament, it's only today, it's only in the last hour or so, that Ecofin has agreed at a political level to try and reach a general agreement, general approach in October. And it will be for Parliament to reflect and decide how it wishes to take things forward. But what is within the control of Ecofin, what is within the control of the Irish presidency, is to set that ambitious agenda of us getting our general approach agreement in October, and then it's for other institutions to decide their own timing. But I believe the European Parliament is ambitious on all of this, and I hope the momentum that we're trying to create today will be momentum that can be carried through the institutions.
Yeah, maybe a few words on this. Well, as Mr. already said, this One Europe, One Market roadmap is agreed by all institutions. So as regards the parts of this roadmap which concerns legislative deliberation from Commission side, we are ready to facilitate the work of co-legislators and reaching the agreement, and that's what we intend to do.
Okay, is there any other questions? If not, we'll finish there. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining.